The idea here is to fill in the whites of the paper and stay within the bounds of the outline as much as I can. I'm using the powder graphite only in the darkest areas of the picture, such as the hair, clothing, and shadows on the face. After that, I'll get my 6B pencil and go over those same areas, increasing the darkness and adding a bit of texture. Keep your pencil sharp often and vary up the angles of your strokes to really fill in the tooth of the paper. Right there, I'm indicating this slight shape surrounded by shadow using my pencil eraser before moving down to the right shoulder and adding value to this dark halftone shape. I like to build my values through cross-hatching for the sake of uniformity. Sometimes I scribble as well. Central to getting even values is consistency in your value application. You really don't want to be zigzagging all over the place with your pencil unless chaos is the look you're after. In this moment, our value structure is very simple. We have a light shape, a dark shape, and some halftones. However, we must still group our values appropriately. The halftone values we have sketched thus far are lighter than our shadows, and this is a reality we must preserve. The lower lip is basically two values, a shadow and a light shape. Towards the edges of the lip, the values get darker, and in the center, we have the highlights. Now, of course, there is a lot of contrast in this region, and on the bedbug line, we need an intermediate value to soften the transition between shadow and light. For me, a combination of my 2B and B pencils get the job done. Returning back to the eyes, I will begin working on the halftones. Inside the sclera, although it is white technically, it should not be white in your drawing because parts of it are closer and further away from the light source. So pay attention to those differences as you shade on the inside of your eyeball. Start off with your lighter pencils and build your values gradually to avoid going too dark too quickly. With the eyelashes, loose gestural marks is what we're after. Draw with your whole arm and not your wrist with a focus on brisk pencil strokes that resemble C-curves. You don't want to connect three lines to form a curve if you can help it. You also don't need 100 eyelashes to convey their presence. Less sometimes is more. In the left eye, I'm rounding out the form with some light halftones. As you see, this is a very deliberate process, which is belied by the speed of this time lapse. I'm constantly looking around my portrait to compare the values that I'm creating with the values that already exist. With a solid foundation to work from, I'll pull out the highlights in the forehead with my pencil eraser, doing my best to emulate the shapes and edges I see in my reference. You can get creative here by cross-hatching or scribbling in the highlights. Just remember to soften that transition between it and the rest of the face. The idea is the same in the nose. The highlight runs along the bridge of the nose and into the side plane, almost connecting to the highlight on the left side of the cheek. Pay close attention to where this highlight starts and ends to ensure the nose doesn't look out of sorts. Once I'm done here, I'll proceed to the chin to do much the same thing. The key to good transitions is using the right grade of pencil and keeping a light hand while doing so, all the while not losing track of the contours in that region by extending the value beyond its bounds. This will require some practice, ultimately, to perfect. In the left eye, I'll use my erasers to pull out that highlight and go over that section with my 2H and 4H pencils to adjust its shape and edges. We have this triangular highlight on the left cheek. It's about the same value as all the other highlights and has around its fairly soft edges. Take your time to carve out the shape correctly and integrate its edges with the rest of the face. Below the nose, we have the philtrum, which is a depressed vertical groove. You don't need to do much here other than indicate the highlights around its borders, and your brain will kind of fill in the rest. Even and unified tone is important for realistic looking skin, so periodically go around your drawing, remove dark spots with your kneaded eraser, and fill in the white of the paper with a light pencil to harmonize your values better. You want to maintain an attitude of dissatisfaction throughout the drawing process, so don't be shy about going over areas you previously worked on and changing them drastically if you feel like there is room for improvement. It won't always translate to something better, but you will not know if you don't try. On the right shoulder, we have this shadow shape that's a continuation of the shadows we sketched in earlier. The borders of the shape have already been established, so all you need to do is build up its layers till it's dark enough that when you squint your eyes, it sits back in space and merges with the other shadows. Also, don't forget the hoop earring, which is casting an overall shadow in that same area. The earring itself is an elongated C-curve that moves from light to dark, emanating from the center with a highlight in the middle. Its edges also move from sharper to softer, following that same pattern, sharper in the middle and softer towards the ends. The halftons in this section are some of the darkest in the entire picture, so make sure to cross-reference the rest of your drawing in relation to what you put down here. We finally made it to the end of this drawing. While this was intended as a sketch, the fundamentals of good drawing still apply. The journey is a continuous process of trial and error, repetition, and long hours at the easel to get ourselves to a competent place and eventually mastery. Take a day off looking at this drawing, put it aside, and return back with fresh eyes and see what else you can improve. For me, this would be the eyebrows, particularly the right eyebrow, which I feel are not well designed, and the shape of the nose, which lost some of its character in the rendering phase. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.